Thanks for tuning in to Nightline with me, Muhammed, Ahmad, Hamdan. The top stories.
Jadi pakar-pakar ini mengesahkan ada pakar baru yang Kota Baru nak sebut, carilah. Sebut pada saya nama siapa. Ini pakai sembrono.
And fee structure at public healthcare facilities to be reviewed. Good morning. The recently signed Malaysia-Indonesia Maritime Border Agreement does not in any way put the interests, rights and sovereignty of the country at stake. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said before the Maritime Border Agreement was signed, the government had taken into account the views of various relevant parties, including experts in the related fields.
Pakar Maritime mana? Saya dah sebut nama-nama. Kementerian Luar, Jabatan Maritim, MKN, Peguam Negara, Jabatan Ukur dan Pemetaan, Hidrografi Malaysia. Sebelum saya meterai, perjumpaan akhir, saya masih berdepan dengan mereka. Jadi pakar-pakar ini mengesahkan ada pakar baru yang Kota Baru nak sebut, carilah. Sebut pada saya nama siapa. Ini pakai sembrono aja.
During the minister's question time in the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday, Datuk Seri Anwar also said that the recently signed agreement did not involve the areas that are still under negotiation, namely Sabate Island, Sabah, and the boundary line for the South Sulawesi Sea. He said the agreement also does not involve the Tanjung Pelepas Port area. Datuk Seri Anwar also stressed that negotiations to finalise the area in Tawau have been postponed pending a new agreement. To another question on whether the agreement also took into account the border agreement signed by Singapore and Indonesia in 2009, Datuk Seri Anwar said the government had consistently objected to the agreement signed by the two republics. Now, speaking on another matter, Datuk Seri Anwar has stressed that he has no issue with flip-flopping on public policies if these decisions help the people and can lessen the burden of the public. This comes after the government decided to maintain subsidies for chicken and eggs and the Public Services Department's scholarships for students pursuing studies in medicine, dentistry and pharmacy.
Pengumuman itu bukan flip-flop, keputusan lama kita diumum ikut prosesnya. Tapi bila dimaklum kepada saya, diteliti balik, ini akan membebankan rakyat, raya haji dekat, kita tolonglah rakyat. Jadi beza saudara yang berhormat Tanjung Karang yang duduk tak berapa puas hati kerana flip-flop. Kalaupun flip-flop untuk bantu rakyat, saya akan flip-flop. Ya. Buat apa tak mau flip-flop tapi bebankan rakyat.
He added that the decision to continue the chicken and egg subsidies as well as a scholarship announced recently was not a flip-flop, but rather a new policy under the unity government. He explained that the previous statement saying that chicken and egg subsidies would end on June 30th and that the scholarships for the fields of medicine, dentistry and pharmacy would be stopped is based on the old decision made by the previous administration. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Anwar said the third phase of the Rahmah Cash Aid SDR for the B40 group recipients is expected to be disbursed before the Aidil-Adha celebration.
Yang penting ini ialah tentang sumbangan tunai rahmah fasa 3 yang melebihi 2 bilion ringgit, bilangan penerima 8 juta, itu akan disalurkan sebelum hari haji insya-Allah, dan juga belia 200 ringgit, belia 18 hingga 21 tahun akan disalurkan sebelum minggu ketiga tahun ini.
In the meantime, speaking at the Cakna Madani program at Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia UKM on Tuesday, Datuk Seri Anwar announced that the government has agreed to an additional RM100 monthly allowance for Public Service Department PSD scholars in local universities beginning July 1st.
RM100 sebulan, tadi kita dah umum, setuju. Ya, setuju. Pasal dia minta, dia tanya, Datuk KPPA kata dia tak minta lebih. Kalau dia minta lebih tadi, saya bagi lebih tadi. Mulai 1 Julai, saudara akan dapat RM100 tambahan.
He said the move was in line with the government's effort to tackle the rise in cost of living, especially for students in the B40 category living in big cities where they are studying. Later in a statement, the Prime Minister also announced that the government had agreed to increase the living allowance by 15% for PhD scholars overseas. He added that the initiative to review living allowances will enable students sponsored by the government to focus on academic excellence without having to think about financial burden, while ensuring that the government's sponsorship offer remains relevant and prestigious. Moving on, the fee structure at the Health Ministry's public healthcare facilities will be reviewed. According to the 57-page white paper on health released in the Dewan Rakyat, the fee structure will be reviewed so that it is in line with the patient's income level. The white paper said this will ensure that low-income households can afford health services. It stated that the low fee rate at public healthcare facilities is a well-cherished feature of the healthcare system, where the public are given access to the healthcare system at an affordable cost. However, the paper noted that the fee structure, which is the same for all, has created a disparity, especially when it comes to high-income households. Nevertheless, it said the safety net for low-income households will be maintained. A health benefit package will also be established, which will list healthcare and medicine services which will be accessible at an affordable rate. The package is expected to cover aspects such as promotive and preventive medicine services from primary healthcare to hospitals. The white paper said the package would also ensure that the health and financial burden are cross-subsidized. Besides, the health benefit package will be funded through a non-profit healthcare fund, which will be funded by the government. The fund might also include contributions from individuals and donors in the future. Previously, there have been calls from healthcare groups for the RM1 outpatient and RM5 specialist care fee at the Ministry of Health facilities to be reviewed. In July last year, the Dewan Rakyat was told that the government's healthcare expenditure increased by 190% from 12.6 billion ringgit in 2006 to 36.6 billion ringgit in 2021. Meanwhile, Malaysian Medical Association MMA President Dr. Muruga Rajaturai said the move to review all public hospitals and clinics is timely.
It is time for healthcare reforms in Malaysia. The healthcare white paper will be tabled in Parliament tomorrow. We hope that members of Parliament from both sides, opposition and the ruling government, can come together and pass this paper. Also needed to be reviewed is the fees that we pay in our public hospitals, RM1. With these current fees, the government will not be able to sustain running these hospitals for a long time. And to give proper and quality healthcare, definitely the fees need to be reviewed. It's been a long time since this fees has been reviewed. But however, we suggest that for B40 group, this fees, the current fees is maintained.
Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa bin Shah on Tuesday presented the instrument of appointment to 16 judges in a ceremony at Istana Negara. Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Azizah Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria was in attendance. The ceremony began with the presentation of the instrument of appointment to Federal Court judges Dato' Abu Bakar Jais and Dato' Abdul Karim Abdul Jalil, followed by Court of Appeal judges Dato' Azmi Arifin, Dato' Azhar Hari Kamal Ramli, Dato' SM Komati and Dato' Chu Ka Singh. Also receiving their instruments of appointment were 10 High Court judges, namely Nurul Huda Nuraini Muhammad Nur, Nurliza Othman, Hasbullah Adam, Dato' Sri Shamsul Bari Ibrahim, Roslan Mat Nur, Julia Ibrahim, Dato' Muhammad Arif Imran Arifin, John Lee Ken Hao alias Muhammad Johan Lee, Adlin Abdul Majid and Dato' Muhammad Abbas Zafri Muhammad Abbas. Witnessing the ceremony were Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Institutional Reform, Ram Kapal Singh, and Chief Justice Tun Tengku Maimun Tuan Mat. Also present were Chief Judge of Malaya, Dato' Muhammad Zabidin Muhammadiyah, Chief Judge of Sabah and Sarawak, Tan Sri Dato' Abdul Rahman Sebli, and Court of Appeal President Tan Sri Dato' Amar Abang Iskandar Abang Hashim. The government will soon release the National Statistics Department's Salaries and Wages Survey report on a quarterly basis as opposed to annually now. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli said this move would allow employees to be more sensitive to the labour market demand and avoid being underemployed.
Pushing for a quarterly wage statistic is, in my opinion, is important. Otherwise, the policy formulation tu tak sempat nak catch up dengan how the salary is changing. So sebab itu from year to year you see the disparity grows bigger because you baru nak bincangnya itu you kena you have to wait for that yearly statistic.
He also said it would make the labour market more competitive in terms of hiring talents, and the government will also be involved in terms of policies, incentives and frameworks. The initiative will be implemented by next month following approval from the Cabinet. Man arrested over Nottingham Street's violent attack. This and more from the Foreign Front right after this short break. Continues. State volcanologists in the Philippines on Tuesday believe the unrest in the Mayon volcano, which erupted on Sunday, could last for a few months based on historical data. The director of the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, Dr. Teresito Bacocol, drew parallels between the latest activities and that of Mayon in 2018 and 2014 and said that when the eruption is violent, it would probably take a few days to weeks. However, when it is slow, it could take several months to cool down. He added that those living in the volcano's permanent risk zone will have to remain in the shelters for at least the next few months. As of Tuesday, the Mayon volcano has seen one volcanic earthquake, spewing 723 tons of sulfur dioxide, whilst more than 14,000 residents have been evacuated. Over in the UK, a 31-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after 3 people were found dead in Nottingham on Tuesday. According to authorities, 2 people had been found dead after being stabbed on Ilkeston Road around 4 a.m. local time, whilst a third was found on Magdala Road just outside the city centre. The officers then attended another incident on Milton Street where a van had attempted to run over 3 people. Chief Constable Kate Maynell said the force believes the 3 incidents are all linked and are now at the early stages of the investigation. At least 7 people, including 4 boys, were killed in India as authorities began evacuating people from western coastal areas on Tuesday, 2 days before a powerful cyclone approaches the country's Gujarat state and neighbouring southern Pakistan. According to authorities, at least 4 boys drowned at Juhu Beach on Monday evening, while a search is still ongoing to locate the remaining 2. He added that high waves in the Arabian Sea, accompanied by a heavy downpour and gusting winds, pounded Gujarat's coastal areas, uprooting trees and resulting in wall collapse that killed another 3 people in Kutch and Rajkot districts in the state. The country's state government said that 8 districts in coastal Gujarat are expected to be affected. Classified as a very severe cyclonic storm, Biparjoy is expected to make landfall around Thursday evening between Mandavi in India's Gujarat and Karachi in Pakistan. 10 people were killed following a Russian overnight missile strike on Ukrainian city of Kryvyi. The city's mayor, Alexander Vilkul, said 1 person is still trapped under rubble and 28 people have been injured with varying degrees of severity. He said 6 bodies were recovered from a business premises and 4 from a different 5-story building. The rescue operation is still ongoing. The devastation in President Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown is the latest bloodshed in Russia's war in Ukraine, as Ukrainian forces are in the early stages of a counter-offensive using Western-supplied firepower.
Y del propio ayudas muy delicadas y urgentes salud popular. Los aplausos hablan de la comunidad en el municipio.
Football. French star Kylian Mbappe reportedly handed in a formal rejection of a contract extension with Paris Saint-Germain on Monday, triggering fears at the club of the forward being sold this summer. Mbappe's contract expires in June next year when he'll be able to leave Paris on a free transfer. The most likely scenario now appears to be a sale this summer, with PSG keen to avoid losing their star asset for free. Despite the contract situation, Mbappe would probably still demand an astronomical fee, perhaps even eclipsing the $208.7 million that PSG paid for him in 2018. The news will interest every elite club in Europe, particularly in the Premier League. Manchester United, Liverpool and Chelsea have all been linked in the past, but Real Madrid is the favourite destination. Moving on to tennis, the 2023 Libema Open. Milos Raonic of Canada marked his return to action after a near two-year absence with a straight sets victory over Serbian fifth seed Miomir Kecmanovic in the first round. The former Wimbledon finalist Raonic had been sidelined since July 2021 due to a series of injuries, but the 32-year-old returned with a commanding first victory. He needed 1 hour 24 minutes to complete a 6-3, 6-4 win at the outdoor grass court tournament. Raonic's strongest season was in 2016 when he achieved a career-high ranking of 3 after reaching the Wimbledon final and Australian Open semi-finals. The Canadian will face Australia's Jordan Thompson in the next round. Still to come, men who burn Quran and prayer mats remanded. Don't go away.
Ayo semarakkan sokongan anda untuk Harimau Malaya. Siri Persahabatan Antarabangsa. Secara langsung hanya di TV9 dan Astro saluran 149.
Thanks for staying with us. An unemployed man has been remanded for 4 days to assist in the investigation of a case involving the burning of the Quran and prayer mats taken from a mosque in Batu Rakit, Kuala Nerus, Terengganu. Kuala Terengganu District Deputy Police Chief Superintendent Wan Muhammad Zaki Wan Ismail said the suspect was taken into custody on Monday following a police report involving an incident where 4 copies of the Quran and 3 prayer mats were burned at the hemodialysis centre in Batu Rakit on Monday morning. It was reported that the man also tested positive for methamphetamine. The remand order for the 33-year-old man was issued until next Friday, and the case is being investigated under the Penal Code. In Malacca, 4 men, including 2 minors, have pleaded not guilty in the Ayakuro Sessions Court to charges of ill-treating and causing harm to a teenager, as well as possession of pornographic materials. The accused, believed to be members of an online scam syndicate, were charged with ill-treating a 15-year-old boy at a house in Malacca Tengah between 8 p.m. last May and 1 a.m. the following day. The accused, who acted as employers to the teenager, have subjected the victim to abuse by physically injuring him using their hands, legs, ropes and an iron rod. They face imprisonment for up to 10 years and a maximum fine of 20,000 ringgit or both if found guilty. Judge Muhammad Sabri allowed the four accused bail of 20,000 ringgit each on both charges and set July 14th for mention. In another court before Magistrate Nurul Ashikin Rosli, the four men pleaded not guilty to possession of pornographic materials in their respective handphones. The charge, framed under the Penal Code, provides imprisonment for up to 3 years or fine or both if found guilty. The court set bail at 3,500 ringgit each and fixed July 14th for mention. The Royal Malaysia Police (PDRM) will be seeking the assistance of the International Criminal Police Organisation or Interpol to locate the current whereabouts of Singapore-born stand-up comedian Jocelyn Chia. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akhril Sani Abdullah Sani said the request would be made on Wednesday in order to conduct further investigation into the comedian's insensitive remarks about Malaysia during a recent comedy skit. Tan Sri Akhril Sani said the police had also applied to the Malaysian Multimedia Communications Commission (MCMC) for user profiling to help with investigations into the social media accounts used by the comedian. In addition, he said authorities have also transcribed the suspect's speech from a video clip of the skit, which recently went viral. Tan Sri Akhril Sani was speaking to the media after a hospital visit program in conjunction with the 216th Police Day celebrations at the Tunku Ampuan Besar Tuanku Aisyah Rohani Hospital, UKM Specialist Children Hospital in Cheras. He added that the case is being investigated under Section 504 and 505C of the Penal Code and Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act. Recently, Chia's video went viral when she performed a comedy skit entitled Singapore versus Malaysia, mocking the MH370 tragedy, in addition to making offensive jokes which drew the outrage of Malaysians as well as Singaporeans. Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, let's take a look at a library in Iraq that preserves a number of ancient, valuable and rare books, as well as old manuscripts, almost a century old. The library was founded 3 decades before the first school opened in their village of Dilijan Al-Kabir and has kept its doors open since then, offering hundreds of titles on a wide range of topics and in different languages. With that, I'm Muhammed. I'm Hamdan. Thank you for watching and stay safe.